It's good to see you guys. It
I get.
was,
Oh, sorry. Go.
yeah, it was good to be first day. The energy kind of going into it was, you could feel it, man. You know, it was pretty cool. We had Xavier Newman here, we had Terrell Bernard, Christian Morgan, Jalen Petrie, and I think they for sure brought some energy too. But I think the guys have been working really hard through the winter conditioning and the mat drills and the football schools of all of it to come out here and to do their thing. And thought this was by far the cleanest first practice that we've had in any facet of a spring, fall camp, season, you name it. And so, expectations are higher. And so there's for sure things that we can clean up and get better at. But I thought we hit the ground running. Excited to be able to see the steps this team takes to get better. Take any questions you guys got?
With all that momentum you had carrying at the end of last season,
Mm-hmm.
returners at key positions, big transfers, what are the different feelings for you as you start this spring versus last spring or springs of the past?
We've got to get the stuff that we're not doing good. We got to get it corrected, and there's a fair amount of those things. And then I think the things that we are doing good, we got to take it to a whole other level. And so I think there's on some parts of our team there's strong identities, and so I think we want to be able to lean into those identities. I think the new year, the new people, there can be this wrinkle or that wrinkle. The identity really ain't changing, but I think there's other facets of the program where we need an identity. Well, we're searching for one, and this is the time to get that established. And I think the build up again from winter into spring is showing, hey, this is the problem that's identified. This is how we're going to fix it. Here's the drills. Here's the tools, and so now it's applying it. So I'm excited to do that.
Do you credit the returning players? You talked about how clean today this was, maybe best first day. Is that the returning players? What do you credit that to?
I think the longer really starting, I can think of the 21 year where football really meant a lot, and then I can think of last year, and then I think of this team or just the beginnings of this team. It's hard to say college football nowadays that this is your team, but I think at this stage, this team loves football and just the time that they put into it. I think Edward Griffin's a great example. I mean, he's a maniac with ball. He's a maniac. He's up there all the time and wants to get better. Sawyer's up there all the time, wants to get better. And you just got guys that are just way investing, and it shows up when you start playing.
It's obviously early, but who have you seen take a step maybe from last year and excel out there today?
There's good things defensive line wise from Bama, from Brendan Bett. I thought he looked really good. I thought our corners, there's some improvement there with guys with Tevin and let's see. I thought that I go back to Ed again. I think he did some great things. Like Walker did some good things. They're both our quarterback room I would put up as one of the strongest ones I've ever been around, just in terms of people and then athletic ability and then care factor. And so I think there's a couple guys right there that really shown out today.
You said the feeling's different this year. How much did the way you ended last year help that coming into this year, and how do you build onto that in the spring with some of the new guys that maybe just saw that from the sidelines and now get to experience it?
Yeah, it's hard. I think you look at last year. I think the way that we finished, I think there was always that in that it would show up in a spring ball practice 8, or it would show up in a fall camp scrimmage, or it would show up in a bye week competition drill. That which was showing up in that win streak, and it was just whether it was this adversity or that adversity, or a lot of it was self-inflicted, unfortunately. But to get it to where all of that was not just glimpses throughout the practice schedules, but in McLean Stadium or at the whatever stadium we're playing at, to have that there, then I think what that does is just build confidence. Like, oh, that is me. I can do this. This is, I'm capable of this. We're capable of this. Let's roll. Let's go, you know. And so I think once you get to that part, and then, you know, like we talked about, you got guys that are coming back, you have the opportunity to raise the standard even more. And the expectation for sure goes up when you've got guys that are returning. And so you welcome that, and you get the leaders to take on the newcomers and go, man, hey, this is how it's done. This is that ain't what it's like. That ain't it. And I'm gonna help you get better. So there is that happening today, and so I'm excited to see where that goes. I think there is a confidence, and there's guys that know that they can do it, and so that's half the battle.
Coach, you spend a lot of time here at Baylor, so when this time comes for spring practice, do you kind of try to implement new things when this time comes? You kind of just keep it as business as usual?
Yeah, you have to know. You try to get to know your team as best you can, and every team's different. We got some new coaches that are here too, and so I think there's an intuition, there's a feeling that comes, whether it's up in the hallways up there, or it's through the weight room down here, or it's on the fields, and so you try to be able to speak truth into kind of where the team's at, right? And I think if you can carry yourself in such a way that it ain't like a propaganda thing and it ain't like a fake thing, but it's a real thing, then you can have an opportunity to kind of read the situation and tell the hard truths that need to be said. And so I like to kind of look at it that way. I think our meeting this morning was that, and we were able to respond, have a great practice. So I'm excited about this team. I think there's for sure the talent and the potential, and so good first day.
Dave, you talked about the two new assistant coaches on the defensive side, talking about blending, how they blended in, and then you also hired some new staff, at Kieran in particular. What do you see from him?
I see the full-time guys. I think there is a attention to detail in coaching. I think there is a lot of experience in systems that are somewhat similar. And then I think there's been the ability for us to, by a year ago at this time, we were kind of putting together, this is what I think the defense can be, and we're so much further ahead now in terms of this is what we're doing, this is how we're playing it, these are the tools we're using within it, and here's what gives us trouble, here's our answers, and so we're way ahead. And so that's a big difference for me in general. But then for them specifically, it gives them the ability to kind of dive in, and they're really talented with just attention to detail and teaching progressions. And I think with Kieran, it's like there's an energy level with him. There's a love for Baylor, and I think he's already made an impact with our kids. The kids love being around him, and he's able to. I think one of his greatest strengths is there's certain dudes when you look out amongst the thing, and you see kind of a team, or you see just a group. There's guys that can read what's really going on with that group right there. This may be what they say, or this may be what's on the schedule, but here's what's really going on right there. And I think for sure he has that ability to see that, kind of what's below the surface, and so I way appreciate that.
What about his ability to bring other former guys back? I mean, you mentioned Jalen Petrie was back, Terrell Bernard, but guys even further back, like how much can Kieran kind of help, bring more of those guys back around?
I think a lot, yeah. I think, of the failures for me, this would be one of them. Is just not having the ability to connect and have as many former Baylor football players back here, whether it's to see this beautiful building or to be around the team. Have really had that as a way important piece of this whole thing from the beginning. And so I think, with him working with David Wetzel, I think we're going to have an ability to really connect and get guys back. And I think in doing that, they'll see that there's a lot to be proud of.
last year you said ball first and focus on that.
Mm-hmm.
How have you elevated that approach, and what do you have to get out of using that so early?
Yeah, I think, we want guys when they're going, we've got guys now that are in a draft process that are working through interviews to get drafted and to go to the next level. And we want them when they're being watched or when they're going through film with an NFL scout or an executive or a coach to be able to explain not only their job, but what the guy next to him's job was. They if they're on a board, they could put up their 11, and then the opposing 11, they put all 22 up there, and they can explain all of it and talk it through, the pros and the cons, the strengths and the weaknesses. And believe me, that whole thing's the thing. And you don't get to that unless you put ball first. And our goal is to be that and to do that. And, I look at Matt Jones as an example of that. I look at Trevin as an example of that. There's various others that are in a position to do all of it. But I think, serious people do serious stuff. And we want them to be in that position, our guys, to be in that position or even greater next year. And I think it has to start from the very beginning.
You brought in a lot of linebacker transfers, inside, outside, all of it. How quickly do you expect them to kind of pick up your complex scheme? And are you still hands-on with that group?
I am, yeah. And, right away. And we're going to need to right away. I think that today was a good example of it. I mean, we've been, it's funny, the opportunities are there to do football all the time, and so we're doing it. And I think a lot of the connection and a lot of the things that we were kind of doing off the field, we're doing through football now. Football is kind of the language, and it's been a real positive for us. And I think, we've got some transfers that played a lot today, and then we're going to have some freshmen that are going to show up here in the summer that we're going to count on playing a fair amount too. And so, I think the whole system has to be, if ball's out in front, then our methods, we got to be able to get it to them easy. And we've got to be able to invest time into them because we need them to produce and to play and to be productive year one.
Even in spring, are you concerned with the running back depth, or do you feel like you've got enough there for now?
I feel that we do. I think that there's different there's levels of health there. We're trying to get some guys back from injuries from last year, and so I think that's going along nicely right now. We waited till as late as we possibly could to kind of start spring. That was one of the reasons to do that, was some of the guys coming off of last year type stuff, and so I'm anticipating by the middle to the end of spring we got everyone's rolling and doing their thing, and so I'm looking forward to that. It's a very talented room.
A lot of other programs are canceling their spring games or doing something different. Are y'all going to do what y'all done in years past, or find another thing to do?
Yeah, I think we're going to do what we did last year, and that was more of like a showcase, and we had one-on-ones, and we had people at the facility, and we had our players kind of available, and I think there's a fair amount to kind of get done just as a football program, whether it's, hey, we can work on this, build in for, summer and fall camp and the season. But then I think guys have come a long way, so we can show, hey, in one-on-ones we're doing this or we're doing that. But, yeah, I think in a similar vein, I think what's happening with spring games, I think it's just really almost a consequence of just what's happening just in college football in general.
Do you envision that being right back here like it was last year, or maybe at McLean this year?
I like it to be here. I think the opportunity to have people where they can be around and see this and see the facility and be within the facility, I think, is a positive.
Do you sense any change in Sawyer now that it's kind of, he's kind of the guy?
There's confidence with him, and there's confidence in him, and there's equally or even greater confidence with guys for him. And so I just think that there's such a belief in what he can do, and when he talks, people listen. And he's a great leader as a mentor to that quarterback room. And I know defensively, guys have a ton of respect for him, and just his dog that he is, and the learner that he is, and the communicator that he is. And so we're blessed to have him. I know that he's put in a lot of effort and a lot of time to make this be a great spring, and so I know that he'll get that.